It's official. Democrats are going to file 2 articles of impeachment. We'll talk about that in a second. The disastrous war in Afghanistan is still going on, and we are not going to let this go, especially off those Afghanistan papers published yesterday. Finally, a Christmas sweater. Well, I mean, you'll have to see it. Decide for yourself. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Let us talk for a moment about power. Power is a very funny thing. Everybody thinks they want it, especially those without it. There's no question it's better to have some of it than none of it. Certainly, you don't want to have zero. You don't want to have too much. But the biggest question out there about power is how to appropriately use it. You see, I have the power to do several things that I choose not to do, not just because I'm such an amazing person, but because I realize there can be long-term consequences to negatively using your own power. Not just for yourself, for your family, for your job, for your country. Power is a funny thing. Just because you have it doesn't mean you can and should use it any way you want. So what do we have right now? We have the Democrats in complete control of the United States House of Representatives. They won the votes at the midterm. They have the votes. They can do as they please. We have a Democrat base that has been screaming from the rooftops for 3 years, impeach the president! Trump has to go! Resistance! That's all we've heard. Well, Democrats ran on, especially Democrats in the House, they ran on impeachment. Vote for me, all impeachment. Vote for me, all impeachment. We even have that one extremely vulgar Congresswoman, Tlaib, saying we're going to impeach the mother blanker. This is a family show, so I'm not going to say it. That's what they ran on. So they feel an obligation now to impeach him. They absolutely 100% have the power to impeach him. But should they? Ask yourself, even if you're a Democrat, especially if you're a Democrat, is this something you should do? Is this a smart thing for you, not only in the short term, is it smart in the long term? You see, in the short term, yeah, we've got an election coming up in less than a year, not just a presidential election. Every single Democrat in the United States House of Representatives up for re-election again next November. The American people have shown time and time again throughout this impeachment process they don't like it. They're not on board with it. And the voters, the only voters that matter, the swing voters in swing states, they really, really don't like it. Yet Democrats can't seem to stop themselves. It's full steam ahead. That's just the short term. In the long term, if you're somebody who believes in the power of government, government should be all powerful. We need more government. Government should control this and control that and control this. Is it a benefit to you to further disenfranchise the American people, to have the American people believe that your position, your laws, the actions you take are illegitimate? In the long term, is that a benefit for you? Or is that dangerous for you? You certainly don't have to look hard throughout history of rulers and congressional bodies and such that have been, well, bad things have happened when they've gone too far. When they've abused their power too much, when they've taken the power they have, used that to smite the people, and the people eventually wake up one day and think, you know what? Screw your power. I'm going to take a little bit back. I'm not advocating for anything, certainly not, never would, but I'm saying this is how societies deteriorate, and this is how governing bodies lose power, and it's eventually how they lose face and lose credibility with the people they rule over. The American people are watching now the impeachment of the President of the United States of America. We joke a lot on the show. We're always going to joke a lot, but that's not a small thing. That's a very, very, very big thing to impeach the president. And if you're going to do it on this, that's not good. It's not just bad for the Democrat Party. That's bad for the United States of America because it makes the American people believe my government is crap. All right, well, Representative Jerry Humpty Dumpty Nadler got up there today and he explained the articles of impeachment. Here he is.
Today, in service to our duty to the Constitution and to our country, the House Committee on the Judiciary is introducing 2 articles of impeachment charging the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with committing high crimes and misdemeanors. The first article is for abuse of power. It is an impeachable offense for the president to exercise the powers of his public office to obtain an improper personal benefit while ignoring or injuring the national interest. That is exactly what President Trump did when he solicited and pressured Ukraine to interfere in our 2020 presidential election. This gives rise to the second article of impeachment for obstruction of Congress. Here, too, we see a familiar pattern in President Trump's misconduct. A president who declares himself above accountability, above the American people, and above Congress's power of impeachment, which is meant to protect against threats to our democratic institutions, is a president who sees himself as above the law. We must be clear. No one, not even the president, is above the law.
Oh, sorry. Apparently that was supposed to interest the American people and actually explain something. And nothing lends credibility to your impeachment press conference like having Maxine Waters behind you and having Jerry Nadler talk about the articles of impeachment when he can barely see over the microphone. He looked like a 6-year-old who just stole his parents' car. Well, as you can imagine, Donald Trump was not just going to let this go. That's not exactly his style. He took to Twitter, as he does, and said, quote, Nadler just said that I pressured Ukraine to interfere in our 2020 election. Ridiculous, and he knows that is not true. Both the president and foreign minister of Ukraine, no pressure. Nadler and the Dems know this, but refuse to acknowledge. Well, you didn't think Jerry Nadler was going to be the only one that got his camera time today and have all his fun today. Adam Schiff, keep in mind, remember what I've been telling you, ladies and gentlemen, my people in Washington, D.C., who are very smart, are saying behind the scenes, anybody who's seen a Nancy Pelosi press conference in the last 2 years knows that she is on the way out. She physically cannot do the job anymore, meaning the Democrats are going to need a new leader, meaning they're competing for that. Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff are competing for that. That's why they're the two Nimrods who had the stupid impeachment inquiry hearings to begin with. So Adam Schiff is not going to let Jerry Nadler hog all the fun. Schiff stepped up to the microphone. Unlike Jerry Nadler, he didn't need a step stool to talk in it. Here we go.
The president's misconduct goes to the heart of whether we can conduct a free and fair election in 2020. It is bad enough for a candidate to invite foreign interference in our political process, but it is far more corrosive for a president to do so and to abuse his power to make it so. Despite everything we have uncovered, the president's misconduct continues to this day, unapologetically and right now.
Well, there's nothing really you have to say about Adam Schiff. I don't understand some things about national politics. And I understand, look, we assign too much intelligence to these people. I understand everybody hates Congress, but it's human nature to assign some level of intelligence to the people who are in charge of you, to the people who run things. So you like to assume, well, I mean, they somewhat know what they're doing. How does a national party allow Adam Schiff to become its face? Adam Schiff has the likability of athlete's foot. There's nobody in America, especially in middle America, who looks at Adam Schiff and says, man, I'd love to have a beer with that guy. I'm glad he's in charge. Nobody does. And yet he's become the mouthpiece for this whole thing. It's a joke. Now, Nancy Pelosi, oh, Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she is the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States of America. That's not a small thing. That's a very, very, very big deal, ladies and gentlemen. Should, God forbid, something happen to President Trump and Vice President Pence, she walks into the Oval Office and gets sworn in as President of the United States of America. She is extremely powerful. She has money. She has committees. She has everything at her fingertips. But she also isn't very lucid. Here's Nancy Pelosi not only off message, but slurring her way through about 30 seconds of video.
All I hear from the press is that I'm moving so swiftly that it's like a blur going by. This has been a couple of years, 2.5. We feel comfortable with all of the time that has gone into this 2.5 years.
And you know what? That's a great little ad to go along with Nancy Pelosi. 2.5 years, she said. Well, wait a minute. I was told that this was about what Donald Trump just did with Ukraine, but Nancy Pelosi says, well, look, she said what we all know to be true. They've been trying to impeach him since the day he was sworn in. And that's why this is failing so badly with the American people. Because even the people who don't really pay attention to politics, who aren't that into it, they pay attention enough to know, come on, man, this is a sham. It's what you guys have been doing forever. Well, Representative Steve Scalise, he had some harsh words for Nancy Pelosi.
And finally, when you look at what she really has done with this majority, that is from day one, when she became Speaker, she made it very clear that the most radical elements of her base, who didn't want to work with this president, but they wanted to overturn the results of the 2016 election, and so they were committed to impeaching him, regardless of the facts. That's been going on from day one that Speaker Pelosi took that gavel. And today, unfortunately, she bowed down to the most radical elements of her base instead of standing up to them and saying that she was going to work for the American people.
She did. And not only did she do that, she did the one thing that Republicans needed Democrats to do going into 2020. You see, Donald Trump has all the advantages going into 2020. For one, he's the current president of the United States. That may sound obvious, but understand something. Presidents get reelected about 75% of the time. There's power that comes with the office. You're always on TV. You're always making big decisions. Yes, everybody's always throwing rotten tomatoes at you, but there comes with a certain prestige comes with being president. So it's hard to bounce a sitting president. It's impossible to bounce a sitting president with a great economy. At least historically, it's never been done. So Donald Trump's sitting there in the easy chair. His opponents are fake Indian Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, who's bleeding from the eye and telling made-up stories about fighting a gangster named Corn Pop. Things are good for Donald Trump. Things are fine. But what's the one thing you worry about? Things being too fine. Your base sitting around thinking, I mean, I don't even, should we vote? I mean, I don't know. The game's on. I guess we should vote. I love Trump, but he's going to coast the re-election. That kind of attitude can lose you elections. So what have the Democrats done? Well, they took all those apathetic voters and they just decided to kick them all in the ribs. Here's some Trump supporters at his rally.
They've been digging at this even before he was elected, so I think they're just grabbing for straws that aren't there.
You can see how upset I am. I'm telling you right now, there are people out here that are so enraged. We are so fed up. And so, of course, we're going to be stronger even coming back to vote for President Trump again.
Don't poke people in the ribs. Democrats can't seem to get out of their own way. So remember, just a quick recap on where we're heading here. They're going to actually file the articles of impeachment. Today was just the announcement. They haven't actually filed them yet. Once they pass the House of Representatives, which they will pass, then we move on to a hearing, a trial in the United States Senate. A United States Senate controlled by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. And ladies and gentlemen, they are going to make the Democrats pay and pay very, very dearly for this sham. And that is going to be Appointment Television, which we will bring you right here on the first Pluto TV channel 248. Sorry for my little Pelosi there. Coming up, former counterterrorism officer and host of This Is My Show, Drew Berquist. Hang on. Joining me now, former counterterrorism officer and host of This Is My Show, Drew Berquist. Drew, I have this theory. That people who abuse their power eventually lose it, and they lose it in ugly ways. And I think Democrats can pat themselves on the back because they finally are going to get their impeachment, even though they're not going to remove Donald Trump. I think they not only hurt their party, I think they actually hurt the country. I don't want to get too melodramatic about it. But I feel like the American people are fed up with the federal government, and I feel like they're fed up with shams like this and nobody ever being held accountable for anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in the end, we've had all of these different tactics that they've put out there for America to see. They've drug everyone along during this whole process, and we've seen the drama kind of unfold. always resulting in absolutely nothing. This may be a little different because, as you said, they're probably going to get their impeachment. But in the end, they're hurting themselves. And I think that you are starting to see some Dems themselves come away from the impeachment discussion and say, okay, well, maybe we want this instead, or maybe we don't want any of it. And they're seeing through just how bogus all of this is. And certainly a lot of America is either A, sick of it and just wants to move on, or B, seeing through it and like, okay, yeah, this isn't real, and it's going to hurt them. Come 2020 and future elections, I think it comes back to really bite them.
Are we being too pessimistic? Are they going to get their impeachment? I think I forget what the number is. I think it's 32, 33, something like that, Democrats in the House of Representatives that come from districts where Donald Trump won in 2016. These are clearly not, dark blue districts. These are swing districts. How are these people going to go back to their voters and say, by the way, I impeached your president?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, good point. It totally could still turn out to be just a big nothing burger, in the House. But because those folks that you're talking about who are in those, red districts that Trump won, who knows? I'm still I guess I'm being cautiously optimistic. To me, it still seems like this is going to go their way, even though it's trending back in our favor. But again, even if I think it almost makes it look worse if they get their darn impeachment. It goes nowhere in the Senate, which it will, and then he wins. You've seen, and I think he wins big, by the way, if that happens. So, either way, the Democrats lose here. They lose 2020. They lose their overall goal of getting him out of office and off the ballot for 2020 because they know they can't beat him.
Drew, we got a national poll out today. Now, it's just one poll, and we all know take polls with a grain of salt. It's just a brief snapshot. But we have a poll out today showing that voters actually prefer Hillary Clinton. Democrat voters in their own party prefer Hillary Clinton over even Joe Biden. Do you think she's tempted? Because I have to be honest. If I'm Hillary Clinton, I was former First Lady, I was a United States Senator, I was Secretary of State. She's filthy rich off of all the Saudi and Russian money. She's not wanting for anything. She's old, overweight, likes to hammer back the booze. Why not just go enjoy your life in Arkansas? Do you think she actually is considering running for president? Is she really that power mad?
No, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think I agree with you. Look, you had a good run. You've lost all the major competitions that you've been in, elections that you've been in. Just carry, you've got lots of money. You've got everything going for you. Somehow, a good portion of America still likes you and values you as a human being, which is remarkable. But I just don't see how you're proving how egotistical you are if you think, despite all of these times you've gone out and lost, the failures that have been there, the near miss with prison, why do you think you can win this time? And I don't think she could. I mean, look, I think it'd be great. It would be entertaining. We'd see the coughing fits. We'd see the health issues pop up. We'd see Donald Trump have awesome debate, nights with her. But I don't think she does it. I think she would have done it by now. Yes, it kind of lends itself to the coming in last minute to be the savior, but you're not coming in to be the savior. You've lost before. You will lose again. So let someone else have a try.
Drew, what are the negatives with invading Cuba?
That's an interesting question, Jesse Kelly. And oddly enough, I don't know if it's serious or not yet. I was pitched today at doing just that to recover some projects for people, some art. I think that there's a lot of problems with doing it.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I guess that makes one of us. I don't see any issues with it. All right, moving on to a quick serious thing before I let you go. I know you're a busy man today. I'm about to hammer on this Afghanistan papers thing. And now that I have you here, everybody knows you're a former counterterrorism officer. Everybody knows you've been there. And if they don't, now I just told them, hopefully that wasn't top secret. What was your response to it? Not that I think you were in any way surprised by any of the stuff in there, but to have it laid out in black and white like that, is it going to change anything? Is this going to prompt anybody to move?
I don't know. I mean, because at the end of the day, look, people are surprised by the report and the mindset behind the whole initiative. But anyone, including, people on both sides of the aisle, people within, Congress, Senate, the White House, people within the intelligence agencies, et cetera, anyone who has touched, or smelled the war in Afghanistan knows what a hot mess that it has been. So they're really, first of all, the fact that people think they're entitled to know everything out there, I think is ludicrous, and that's one of the areas we've gone wrong as a country, particularly when it comes to military and intelligence operations. But in this case, look, you don't have to be a genius to see that things aren't going well. Now, the question of should we keep going and what's the policy, obviously there needs to be a good strategy in place, and I would love to break that strategy down when we have more time. But it didn't surprise me to see this come out. Everyone who is claiming, oh my gosh, the horror, you've known the whole time that this was a mess. Like, stop pretending. So.
Yeah, everybody's known the whole time, and everybody now, of course, that the DOD is running out and defending the whole thing. It's just the standard Washington line we've heard time and time again. Drew Berquist, host of This Is My Show with Drew Berquist. Thank you so much for giving us some time today, my man.
Hey, good to be with you. Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Be good. Coming up, we're going to dig in again to those Afghanistan papers. I'm not letting it go. Hang on. People, there are very few times where I will just come up with a story and I will write it and write it and write it, regardless of if anyone else is talking about it. Because look, let's be honest, I'm a man of the people. I'm here to serve you, to present you with the headlines of the day in the most entertaining, informative way possible. Because look, that's what pros do. However, this is not one of those times. I'm about to talk about the Afghanistan papers again, and let it be known, you can shout it from the hilltops, this is not going to be the last time. I do not consider this to be a minor thing. I do not consider this to be, just another show segment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is critical because it's about the people who have fought for this country. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about or don't remember, one, that's a disgrace, and it's not a disgrace on you. It's a disgrace on the entire rest of the media, but allow me to recap it for you. Yesterday, the Washington Post, yes, I know I find that hard to believe as well, but it was marvelous. The Washington Post came out with something called the Afghanistan Papers. They had so many interviews from people, from the DOD, from the military. They had quotes from people like Donald Rumsfeld, from Petraeus. Look, it's too extensive for me to go all the way through here on the show, but let's just recap it really quickly. Bottom line is, in Afghanistan, basically right after we got there, we could not define who the enemy was. We could not define how to attack the enemy. We could not define what our long-term strategy should be. We could not define what our short-term strategy should be. We didn't know whether we were there for women's rights. On my life, I'm not making that up. That was discussed. We didn't know whether we should prop up the central government, which of course we tried to do and failed. We have not known what we're doing in Afghanistan for the entirety of our 18 years in the country. And look, that would be no big deal if that was a bad game of Risk. But it's not a game of Risk. That's a game of people's lives, people's limbs, people's sons, people's daughters, wives, husbands. It is a big, big, big deal, ladies and gentlemen. A big deal. If we are sending people into some third world hellhole like Afghanistan with no mission, and let me tell you what, I still have several people on the ground there, including a bunch of special forces guys. We're going to talk to Terry Shepard here in just a minute, and they tell me they don't have any idea why they're there. They cannot adequately define what exactly the mission is. The best answer you can get today is, well, what we're doing is we're prepping the Afghan security forces so they can stop the Taliban. Ladies and gentlemen, and you can read about this in the Afghanistan papers as well. The Afghan security forces are corrupt. Half of them do terrible things to children, which I'm not going to elaborate on this show. Go ahead and look it up for yourself. It's disgusting. There's a horrible subculture over there. Half of them are corrupt, and they will collapse to the Taliban about 5 seconds after we walk out of that country. They're nothing as of right now. Our Army Special Forces, our Green Berets who are training these guys, despise these guys. You can also read about that in the Afghanistan papers. Essentially, what I'm telling you is 18 years later, over 2,000 lives lost, 20,000 American boys maimed. We still don't know what we're doing, and we have no plan for an exit. It is that bad, and I find that to be disgraceful, especially during the Christmas season when we have parents who are going to be staring longingly at that Christmas tree, wishing their son was alive still to celebrate with them. When we have kids opening up presents with just mom because dad isn't coming home anymore. When we have wives to this day taking care of their quadriplegic husbands who got blown up in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, whoops, is not going to be a good enough answer for me. And like I said before, this is not going to be the last time I talk about this. The Afghanistan Papers is bigger than impeachment. It's bigger than whatever new daily outrage is. The Afghanistan Papers is the biggest story in the last decade, at least in the United States of America. We're talking about the most powerful country in the world and all the people who run it essentially misleading or, to not use politicians' words, lying to the American people about the fact we're making progress and about what we're doing there. That is a very, 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 very big deal. And as you can imagine, well, we moved on today. I mean, Jerry Nadler had to waddle up to the microphone and give some stupid speech about impeachment. So I guess Afghanistan's fine. We'll worry about that when a couple other people die. Well, no, not on this show. We will not. I'm not letting this go, not by a long shot. We're going to keep talking about it until things get right. Well, the papers came out yesterday, and surprise, surprise, there are people in the government who are scrambling to talk about what? Lying? Misleading? What? We've known all along. We've got a DOD spokesman here, Lieutenant Colonel Thompson Campbell, says, quote, "There has been no intent by the DOD to mislead Congress or the public. DOD officials have consistently briefed the progress and challenges associated with our efforts in Afghanistan. And DOD provides regular reports to Congress that highlight these challenges. The information contained in the interviews was provided to SIGAR for the express purpose of inclusion in SIGAR's public reports." Ah, yes. Here we go. And by the way, that's just one of several statements. I could have read them all to you, but they'd all make you sick, just like that made me sick. A gigantic CYA campaign has begun. It'll be full of lieutenant colonels and sergeant majors and generals running to the microphone saying, ha, 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 look at me. Look at me. I'm a company man. This is all a lie. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Right, Bob? Don't take away my expense account. I got a vacation coming up. Sorry, not good enough anymore. The guys on the ground are saying different things. They've been saying different things for a long time, and now the cat's out of the bag. Own up to it. Charles Duncan, former Army Signals Intelligence officer who served in Afghanistan in 2013, by the way, said, "I thought the war's absurdity was only visible to those of us at the lower levels. Now I know that our pessimism was shared by officials all the way up the chain of command, and yet we all acted as though the war was winnable." And that's because our men and women on the ground are amazing, by the way. You never see them just moping around or telling people, we can't do it, it's all lost. No, you ask them to climb an unclimbable mountain, they will do it. Oftentimes they'll do it with a smile on their face, and that makes it even more disgraceful that you take the best people we have and you just toss them away. And let's talk about just tossing them away. Not just the over 2,000 we've lost completely dead, the 20,000 maimed. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, 10,000 of those are severely maimed. 13,000 people? 13,000 of not just people, that's our best. That's our best people. And you robbed them not only of their future, you robbed the United States of America of being able to take advantage of their future. Those are the people we want marrying, having 10 kids, pushing that legacy on. We are sending our best people into a dump, and we're losing them. Afghanistan is lost, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't say that lightly at all because of the losses we've had there, but apparently, according to this, it's always been, and we always knew it was. It is a tribal nation, a culture we do not understand, and by the way, thank God we don't understand it. You don't want to understand a place that abuses women and children like that. It is a third world dump. It has been a third world dump. Long after we leave, it will remain a third world dump. Let us say goodbye, Afghanistan. Let's hope we never see you again. They don't call the place the death of empires for nothing. Coming up to talk about that, host of the Outdoor Channel's Hollywood Weapons and Special Forces bad man, Terry Shepard, joins me. Hang on. Well, this one is going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time on the show, but the Outdoor Channel has a TV show I'm sure you've all seen called Hollywood Weapons. Nevertheless, the man has a little bit longer of a resume than that. His name's Terry Shepard, and I, frankly, sadly, know plenty of people in the Green Beret, the SF community. Look, most of them are dirtballs because they're in the Army. There's nothing I can do about that now. But Green Berets need no introduction for me. Everybody knows about Green Berets. What if I told you this man was an actual legend in the Green Beret community? And gosh, that hurt me to have to admit that. Terry Shepard joining me now. Terry, thank you for coming on the show.
Nice to see you. Jesse, how's my hair? It's okay for this?
Look, it's the best we could expect. I like that you're still clinging to 3 or 4 strands up there. I find that admirable rather than just let it go. Look, we all know you're 65 anyway. It's fine.
You got to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting.
You do. You have to keep fighting. All right, Terry.
Yes, I know.
Obviously,
Serious stuff.
You know the place a lot you know the place a lot better than I do. I have never been to Afghanistan. Again, you've been in the Army for 9,000 years. I'm sure you've been over there a whole bunch. I don't even know what you're allowed to talk about. But I do know that it's a tribal hellhole and things have not gone well. And these Afghanistan papers came out yesterday from the Washington Post. Actually, surprisingly, it was really good. And they revealed what a lot of people already knew. I'm sure none of this was surprising to you in the least. But Terry, I've got to tell you, man, it's making my blood boil, and I can't stop thinking about the guys we've lost and the guys who are maimed, and we got Christmas coming up, and we got dads who aren't coming home anymore, man. Yeah. And I got to tell you, my blood's boiling.
Well, it should be. I got to tell you, too, believe it or not, considering I have the long career, I've actually never made it to Afghanistan. It was only Iraq deployments, but clearly my guys, I know a lot about it because of the community I'm in. First of all, I urge your listeners and watchers, if you haven't read the book About Face by Colonel David Hackworth that came out in 1989 about his time in Vietnam, this is a mirror of that. And it talks about all the political influences, the careerism of the generals, and just how incompetent the whole thing ended up being and how guys paid with their lives on the battlefield. And none of this stuff is new, man. I mean, this kind of stuff's been going on probably since armies have been armies, where, you have a leader that doesn't want to tell whoever's in charge of them, hey, this isn't going so well, or we don't know what we're doing. But this one really hurts and sucks because we've been here for almost 20 years. It goes across all the administrations, too. You can't just pin this on President Obama, although, we're right-wing guys. It'd be easy to do. But this goes deeper than that. And the anger, you and I are on the interweb a lot, and you can see, man, we've all lost guys there, and we've lost thousands of people. We've really ended up getting nothing for it. We spent untold amount of money, and to find out now that it was all a scam in a way, that they really didn't know what they were doing, and they still kept on with it for appearances. You should be mad. Every person in the country should be mad about this, whatever political bent you are, especially guys like us who go overseas and pick up the sword, for sure.
It's a disgrace, and we'll get back to, I guess, that specifically in a minute. But like you mentioned, 18 years. I mean, we have sons that are literally patrolling the exact same dumpy streets in Afghanistan as their fathers. Honestly, when I read articles like that, Terry, my jaw drops. I can't believe that we've allowed this to go on this long. But I want you to speak specifically, because I've gone off on this before, about careerism of generals, about people in the top brass. People do not understand that, especially in the civilian world. They see the title general, they see 8,000 ribbons and medals on his chest, which I'm sure all those were completely legitimate, but that's another story. And they think to themselves, well, this guy, his word is basically God's word. Can you explain careerism and exactly how it works in the military?
Yeah, well, 100%. Listen, the other thing about this, too, is there's the war, there's trying to fight enemies, and there's also a whole complex in Washington, D.C., where people are making money out of this trough. It's political people, it's defense contractors, it's lobbyists, everyone's eating out of this trough, and it cuts across political boundaries. In the military, careerism is something that, as a Green Beret, we always had a healthy distrust of officers. And if I can just do an analogy on this, too, and I'll probably catch some heat for it, but a lot of dudes will agree with me. the Army Special Forces, the Green Berets, were not actually an official branch of the Army until 1987. What that means is, if a dude as an officer who came over to be a Green Beret, he wanted to be a Green Beret more than he cared about being a career officer. Now, there were some good things about that. It wasn't all bad, but what you ended up also having is officers that came in, got some team time, and then moved on to other jobs. And we have like 800 blanket commands. You know, there's SOCOM, there's USAFIC, there's all these other commands that actually, quite frankly, a lot of those people don't do a damn thing for the guy on the ground, and a lot of those commands actually exist in many ways to justify themselves. And guys get promoted in that command, they move on, and again, the ground truth gets lost because, again, sometimes the ground truth is very uncomfortable, and mistakes are made. Dude, you were an infantry guy. We know going in that there's a decent chance, there's a good chance we're going to have to kill people. There's also a very good chance we're going to get hurt or killed, and we're okay with that. What stings the most is that you have guys and gals who are in a leadership position, really in it to advance, regardless of what's going on the ground. And I would rather have bad news on the ground and make real decisions than have someone kind of, whitewash it and say everything's okay, and then here we are now in end of 2019 going, what have we gotten? So careerism is everywhere. It's not just in the military. The problem with having careerism in the military is that people's lives are at stake. People's lives are at stake. It's you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, I know what you mean. And just to clarify what he's talking about, everybody, team time. He's talking about somebody. I mean, I know the SEALs go through this too. All the special units go through this. You get an ambitious officer. He knows it looks real good on the resume if you have Green Beret sitting in there in bold. So he checks in for a while, gets through it, gets out, and then forgets really what he's supposed to be about. It was a stepping stool, not a place for a warrior to park himself. And what happens is he forgets about the guys on the ground. And you know what, Terry? What drives me nuts is it's not just military guys. It's these bureaucrats. How many little non-military people are running around the Pentagon, are sitting in these national security briefings, and they're typing up things that land on the president's desk. And these are people who've never heard a shot fired in anger before in their lives. But also they don't want to upset the mission. They don't want to upset the apple cart. No one wants to walk in and present the general with the fact that, General, your plan sucks and it hasn't worked at all.
Right. No one wants to hear bad news, because if you're the bringer of bad news, even if you're being honest, your career is going to suffer for that. And you're right. It's a hive, man. It's a hive of people, a trough that people are eating out of. And I understand some of that. It's human nature. But this long, we have been this kind of war footing where the guys we got guys that got killed. We have guys that are coming back that are emotionally and physically shattered. We've got families that are just destroyed from guys going downrange, 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 downrange. We're breaking the force, and again, they also know this. The guys in those commands know that people like me, we never say no. We're never going to say nope. We're not going to go. We'll go, even to the detriment of us and our families. And so that's what really pisses me off, because I get it. Bad stuff happens in war. We know that. But this is something different. This is actually a military-industrial complex with career protection and blanket commands and stuff like that. I'm sad to say, I wish I was smart enough to say how you fix it. I do think that President Trump, whether you're a left-wing or right-wing person, he's been pretty consistent on not wanting to get involved in these wars overseas without any direct benefit or any direct threat to the United States. And I sometimes I disagree with that. I do sometimes think there needs to be some intervention. So I'm not straight down the line on either way. But man, honesty is the best policy. And we just found out today, or was it yesterday when it came out, that we've been getting lied to. And it's not like people lose their jobs or lose their cars. Guys are getting killed. Guys are being physically destroyed. Families are being broken up. And someone still makes a lot of money. And someone is still going to get to the top of the career path. And that sucks.
Makes me sick, my brother. Thank you for what you do. Terry Shepard, Outdoor Channel. Watch his show, Hollywood Weapons. Highly, highly recommend it. He's awesome.
Good to see you, man.
Be good, brother. An ugly Christmas sweater that was deemed too inappropriate for this major retailer. I don't see what the problem is. I'll show you in a sec. Walmart, oh Walmart, apparently got themselves in a little trouble. Now, we all know what the season is. It is ugly Christmas sweater season. I don't know when this tradition began. I'm not going to lie. My wife drags me along to one of these parties every year, so I can't make fun of you all for doing it. But people have ugly Christmas sweater parties, whether you find the ugliest Christmas sweater you can find. You take it to the party, everyone laughs at each other. Ah, ha, ha, you're hideous. And we all go on, drink a little too much eggnog, go home and go to sleep. Well, Walmart, as most retailers are, is in the ugly Christmas sweater business, and they have a Christmas sweater, I guess I should say had a Christmas sweater, with Santa sitting in front of a pile of cocaine and 3 lines of cocaine ready for him to take a hit off of. Walmart was a bit horrified when the public backlash came down. You know, Walmart likes to do that whole family values thing. People saw the shirt, freaked out about the shirt. Walmart came out with a statement saying, quote, "These sweaters, sold by a third-party seller on walmart.ca, do not represent Walmart's values, have no place on our website. We have removed these products from our marketplace. We apologize for any unintended offense this may have caused." Ladies and gentlemen, he's from the North Pole. He works 1 time a year. He has to stop in every single home across the world. If the big man is going to hand out gifts like that to everybody and wants to do a little booger sugar before he does it, let's not fault the guy for it. I'm Jesse Kelly. We'll be back and better than ever tomorrow. See you then.